When we picture a world war, we pull from the images burned into our collective memory by the 20th century. We imagine massive armies crossing borders and fleets of bombers that filled the sky, engulfing entire cities in flames. Because those conflicts transformed civilization, we naturally assume the next global clash will bring those exact same scenes returning once again. But since the end of the Second World War, the existence of nuclear arsenals has created a profound restraint. Leaders understand that traditional total war between superpowers carries a destructive potential that leaves no victor. The human drive for influence and territory hasn't disappeared, but because the ultimate physical stakes are now too high, the battlefield itself was forced to evolve into something almost entirely invisible. Over the last few decades, modern civilization built systems that previous generations never had, linking governments, businesses, and daily life across thousands of miles. Financial markets operate continuously, and information travels across continents in seconds. This deep, systemic connection created extraordinary global prosperity. It also created a severe vulnerability. In previous centuries, oceans and geography limited how far a conflict could spread. Today, those physical barriers offer no protection. A regional dispute or a supply chain failure in one hemisphere travels instantly through the network, affecting economies and industries everywhere else almost immediately. These critical systems are now the primary targets. The most dangerous war in history might begin with disconnected events that seem small enough to ignore, until suddenly they are not. Historically, nations measured their power by counting soldiers and artillery. Today, they compete by leveraging markets and global supply chains. Economic tools like trade restrictions and sweeping sanctions are deployed to isolate economies, functioning with the exact same suffocating effect as a traditional naval blockade. By controlling the flow of specific resources and restricting access to critical technologies, one country can paralyze an adversary's ability to manufacture goods or maintain its own infrastructure. This pressure forces strategic concessions and alters behavior at the highest levels of government, all without firing a single shot. Because modern markets are so deeply intertwined, deploying these economic weapons creates a shockwave. The consequences ripple outward, reaching businesses, industries, and millions of civilians far beyond the borders of the countries directly involved. Alongside economic pressure, cyber warfare has replaced the strategic military airstrike. Instead of targeting military bases, modern attacks zero in on the backbone of daily life: communication networks, financial institutions, and energy grids. The goal of these operations is rarely outright physical destruction. The objective is to inject delay, foster uncertainty, and create widespread public confusion. Modern societies only function because millions of digital systems talk to each other every single day. Interrupt those connections for even a short period, and the resulting societal failures compound quickly. The challenge is that ordinary people will never see this struggle directly. They will only experience the quiet, terrifying downstream effects: a disrupted cell network, an unexplained bank failure, or a sudden blackout. Every conflict relies on a competing narrative, making the war for information a vital psychological weapon in this invisible arsenal. Governments and organizations battle constantly to shape public perception, knowing that controlling the prevailing narrative is nearly as important as holding physical ground. Artificial intelligence accelerates this process dramatically, pushing manipulated information across online platforms at extreme speed to sow distrust and intentionally weaken domestic institutions from the inside. The strategy relies on a simple chain reaction. Public perception influences human behavior, and that behavior eventually forces leaders to make specific geopolitical policy decisions. If a population's trust in reality can be broken, an adversary rarely needs to use physical force. The struggle to maintain objective truth may well be the defining battleground of the modern era. History offers a clear warning. Major global conflicts rarely start as world wars. They begin as regional disputes, border incidents, or strategic miscalculations. In a connected environment, a minor political crisis rapidly triggers complex alliances and digital obligations globally. Automated intelligence systems execute operational responses, allowing the crisis to multiply in milliseconds, often past the point of human intervention. Technology has drastically accelerated the speed at which decisions must be made, but human judgment and our capacity to manage uncertainty remain exactly the same. The real danger rarely lies in the initial spark. It lies in the increasingly uncontrollable systemic chain reaction that immediately follows. It is easy to focus on the international strategy and the complex networks, but wars are ultimately experienced by ordinary people. Every abstract geopolitical policy eventually reaches human lives. Economic sanctions and infrastructure failures translate into lost livelihoods, disrupted routines, and profound lingering anxiety within communities. Behind every strategic calculation is a person, and behind every conflict is an entire generation forced to adapt to devastating circumstances they had no hand in creating. The next world war will likely not announce itself with a dramatic declaration or sudden explosions. It will emerge gradually, building through interconnected crises and escalating tensions. The trajectory of the modern world rests entirely on the decisions made by human leaders during moments of extreme confusion. And by the time the world fully recognizes what is happening, the most dangerous conflict in human history may already be underway.